My mom asked him if I'd ever walk again, and his reply was that I'd probably never pick my nose again. So it had already been difficult enough to live as a quadriplegic. It's a hard life. You can't always see the finish line at the beginning of the race. You don't know what you're capable of until you start moving in that direction. I had a 0% chance of doing what I'm doing right now, but I'm doing it. Fell asleep while driving down this long frontage road to the interstate. Woke up in the hospital the next day. It was a little scary, because, one of the first things they told me was I was going to have surgery on my spine. I shattered my T1 and T3 vertebra, right where the neck meets the back, I learned my lesson from my first accident. I was like, all right, I need to start making some decisions that are less irresponsible, get 100% into my adulting, and just making sure that I'm setting myself up not for failure. I was on the right path, making good decisions for my future, had just started the physical therapy assistant program at my local college. And when sitting there in that same intersection, just waiting on a red light, and somebody ran the light and T-boned me. And just felt like I was drowning all the time. Just like there was all this oxygen, but I didn't have access to it. After all that, I'm laying there in the hospital bed, and my mom asked him if I'd ever walk again, and his reply was that I'd probably never pick my nose again. And, that doctor saying that gave me no hope at all. Nothing. I had nothing to look forward to. So it had already been difficult enough to live as a quadriplegic. It's a hard life. Yep, went into my second surgery. It was a C2, C3 spinal fusion. When you have a spinal cord injury, your nerves, much like if you cut off the tail of a lizard, it'll wiggle around still. And 8 days total had gone by, and I started wiggling my big toe. One of my friends walked out in the hallway and snatched the doctor up by his coat. The same doctor that said I'd never pick my nose again. Grabbed him up by his coat and said, "Look at that." He said, "He's doing that on command." And he's like, "No, he's not." And then he's like, "Wiggle your toe right now." And I damn sure did. I remember laying in the bed, and they come and do what's called an Asia test. I'm going to walk out of here. And she's like, "Well, that's a great mentality," but I said, "No buts, I'm going to do it." I was in that rehab facility for a little over 2 months. I have an aunt who lives in the DFW, and she knows some of the people down at 180, and we went to see them. He was like, "Dude, you are inspirational." He said, "You've got to meet my friend Justin." He said he's one of the best trainers in America. This guy just knows what he's doing, and I think meeting him could be a big opportunity for you. So we decided to go to Procore Fitness and meet up with Justin Lewis and see how he operates, how he does things, what kind of person he is.
My name is Justin Lewis. I'm the owner of Procore Fitness in South Lake. Chase was essentially referred to me. Somebody said, "Hey, it's this guy, he's broken his neck twice. He can barely walk. He's disabled, and he's but he's a really hard worker and he's really driven to be successful. Would you want to meet with him?
I had my first session with Justin, and I remember sitting there and thinking, this guy clearly knows what he's doing. And so I'm going to be as plain and honest with him as I can be.
He's like, I'm doing kind of traditional weightlifting, bicep curls and that kind of fun stuff. But I'm not really seeing much progress anymore, and I really want to continue to get back to a more normal life. The nervous system is what was damaged on him. It wasn't, so much the muscular damage that was an issue, it was the neurological damage. And so it seemed that if we were going to see improvement, we needed to stress his nervous system.
My words verbatim to Justin was, I need someone to push me like I'm not handicapped, because everybody sees me and goes, oh, this handicapped person. No, I need you to look at me like I'm a normal person, but weak, and I need to be pushed. My main goal, I guess I would say, was to gain strength, weight, and mobility.
So what we did was we started with simple things and we gradually got them more and more complex. But the idea was to teach complex movement and to challenge his coordination so that his muscles continue to work better and better together as opposed to individually like a bicep curl might teach.
Well, it was a lot with, like I've mentioned before, my left side is just kind of struggling behind, everything that I'm working on over here, I did at one point on this side.
You could think of it as it went from, real simple exercises that were kind of challenging, like 1, 2, 3, 4, to, full body movements that really worked in multiple planes of motion.
We started off with mobility stuff, lots of, hands on the mat, trying to get my fingers to stretch out more to where I could use them more.
We could hopefully improve the connection, so to speak. We can improve the bandwidth of the neural pathways that did exist. I thought at minimum we should be able to get more out of what he's got.
I guess I didn't realize it at the time, but a lot of it was coordination stuff.
And in a perfect world, we might even be able to see that he's forming new connections. And that's what we saw happen. So the logic was, let's do things that force his nervous system to work harder.
If you tried to do mirroring with your hands, there was no chance of me doing that before. And a lot of the water kettlebell stuff that we did, is, in mirrored sync. You're doing the same thing with either hand, and it really trained me to move my arms. It's not, using your hand isn't just, the movement of the wrist and the fingers. Look at when people talk, we move our hands around and our arms too. Every movement that you make is a part of all these muscles doing one job together.
Whether it was fine motor skills or coordination skills, getting the whole body to work together.
The hardest thing probably for me throughout my daily life was the fact that I was unable to open water bottles. It was just, I'd sit there and get blisters on my fingers from trying to open water bottles. 3 months in, I started doing that, opening my own water bottles.
And so we started to see a little improvement, and then around 3 months, he was able to open a water bottle.
I called my mom at midnight when I opened my first water bottle, blow up her phone, and she's thinking something serious is happening, something bad. It's going down. Something's wrong with my baby. She answered, what's wrong? I said, I opened a bottle of water without my teeth.
Because that stuff can be very frustrating, right? Like when you tell your fingers, do this, and they're like, no, I don't feel like it. That can be more frustrating than fatiguing from cardio or your muscles wearing out. When it's like, no, my body won't listen. That's hard.
And, you know, no matter how little that seems to other people, that was a lot of hard work between that first couple months that got me there. Well, I was able to open a banana. That was pretty nice because that's my breakfast every day. Yeah, Ziploc ties. Yeah, most small things that you have to do with that's a two-handed activity.
We saw that Chase was starting to have better control over the left side of his body. We saw that he was starting to have better control over his fingers, especially.
It was really, really difficult for me. Yeah, I was, you know, by the time I got here, my right side was pretty close to normal strength. But, you know, you can't do everything with one hand. You can't always see the finish line at the beginning of the race. You don't know what you're capable of until you start moving in that direction. You know, I had a 0% chance of doing what I'm doing right now, but I'm doing it. I mean, if I get up every day and exercise as much as I can, there's a possibility that I get back to normal. Slim though may it be, there's a possibility. You know, you've got this wall in front of you and you just think, there's no way I can do that. Well, the only person that can figure out if you can do that is you.